In 2020, we're going to have to make a choice between Omar Escobar, a man who has taken action against corruption, and Gocha Allen Ramirez, a man who speaks words that have yet to be supported by action. December 2015, Omar Escobar investigated corruption at the tax office. January 2016, Omar Escobar requests for assistance in the investigation into missing evidence in the form of cash from the Starr County Sheriff's Department evidence vault. You have to take the man's deeds on behalf of the taxpayers in doses. There's a long list, and I'm just talking about the official stuff as it relates to corruption. I haven't gotten into all the things he does for the community outside of the office. But for now, let's just take those two things into consideration. G. Allen Ramirez posts, "Of course it's your job, Mr. DA. It shall be the primary duty." And he's quoting the Texas Code of Criminal Procedures, Chapter 2, Article 2.01, of all prosecuting attorneys, including any special prosecutors, not to convict, but to see that justice is done. This is why I don't think it is him that's saying this stuff half the time. If it is, how the hell can you open yourself up so easily by bringing up special prosecutors? They have all of these people praying that he wins so that he can be the knight in shining armor and save them from the clutches of injustice. Well, why wait? If Gocha is so sure of his ability to prosecute these cases that Omar, in his opinion, is falling short of prosecuting, then guarantee a true bill of conviction. Write up the true bill. Get appointed special prosecutor and risk prosecutorial misconduct as you purposefully attempt to charge someone when the investigation agency, in some cases the Texas Rangers, say there is no evidence. Get her done. Gocha's political allies boast of having evidence dismissed, and they boast taking on investigators to preserve the rights of the accused. But there is nothing stopping them from fighting to submit evidence that doesn't exist to prosecute someone. Well, except maybe the fear of being wrong and suffering the consequences. Whatever it is people think he can do after becoming DA, he is very capable of doing it right now. The problem is he can't. He can't now. He won't be able to in the future. It's a sham, a scam, it's an illusion. The sad part is that all of these false hopes are being fed to victims' families by Bernice, the former head of the Starr County Crimes Victim Unit, who spent most of her time asking for grants and campaigning while filling victims' heads with lies. Pay attention, victims' families. If Gocha is able to do anything to bring justice, he could, if he actually could, do it now. There's nothing stopping him from helping you all except that he doesn't want to help you all and is instead using you all. And so is Bernice. It wasn't enough that she got fired. Instead, she took her political allies and created a cause. The cause is the same, helping victims' families. And she made herself the project director. She is asking the state for $600,000. That is quite a bit of taxpayer money for something that Starr County is already providing. But according to her, Starr and Zapata are underserved when it comes to providing care and services to victims of crime. Get this. The project starts in October 2019 and ends in September 2020. It is conveniently scheduled to coincide with the upcoming elections. Sure, after posting a brief image that the Butterfly Haven was coming, everyone in the post thought it was some type of butterfly sanctuary of sorts, and no information was really offered to detail what it was. But everyone remarks about how beautiful butterflies are. This is done through the Child Wellness Network, and it is at a tune of $611,105,050. The Child Wellness Network consists of Dr. B, the founder, Marty Garcia, the president, Ricky Perez as the vice president, and Jasmine Barrera as the secretary. You might recall Dr. B is also a member of the Rio School Board, and Ricky Perez is a member of the Roma School Board. Our program will include a multidisciplinary team made up of law enforcement officers, Child Protective Services personnel, lawyers, advocates, mental health therapists, and medical personnel. What did she do? Copy and paste her work in the DA's office? Bernice is not a political boss, more than she is a political boss's tool, a puppet, an instrument. It appears as if she helps finance the campaigns through grants and probably draws out a nice chunk for herself to hire politiqueras to gather votes for her. She's a vote harvester. She sells her services of harvesting votes to people outside of her family, and she takes orders from her family. Along for the ride are people that couldn't make it in the real world, so they spend most of their time kissing up to Bernice's family, waiting for scraps and free campaigns to get thrown at them. But Bernice's family represents only one part of the whole political boss. The other political boss is Annalisa Garza. She pulls the strings to make Marty and Gocha and Chuy Alvarez dance, and they dance. Marty pulls her strings and makes people dance in Rio and Roma, and so on and so on. Gocha, he just dances. Not exactly the thing we need in the DA's office, but exactly what they need. Bernice's strings get pulled. She gets a little money, and bam, I get an invite to Gocha's page, Letty's page, child wellness something or other. This dude that ran for clerk, Fernando Peña, Annalisa Garza, Orlando Rodriguez. But things get even more interesting when you start to actually examine the construction defects lawsuits. At the present time, I could only find stuff that went to appeals, but the following two cases are like night and day in contrast. Taking a look at the Ewing versus Roma ISD appeal, Judge Jose Luis Garza makes a beautiful argument wherein he rules that Roma ISD is not immune from being sued by Ewing Construction. Ewing argues that the school breached the contract and didn't allow them to finish the job. In other words, the school defects were self-imposed. They did it, obviously, because they felt that they were immune to being sued because they were a government entity. This case is later referenced in other cases, where, for example, a port in Houston tried to contract a construction company that used a specific method to finish a project in a given time frame. Then the port turns around and tells the contractor that they can't use that fast method, and that they need to figure out how to do the impossible within the given time frame. If you read Jose Luis Garza's work, it makes you feel proud that the people of Starr County elected someone with that much integrity and wisdom as to create an example that helps others settle their differences. In contrast, Annalisa Garza breaks constitutional law right out of the gate in a case between DESCON and Rio Grande City CISD. It is disgusting to read how blatant the favoritism is between her and Norman Jolly, the attorney representing Rio CISD. They are laughing and cracking jokes about taking trips to Ireland. Jolly talks about having an internet guru who finds a web page that is used as evidence. What Jolly basically says is that there are people associated with DESCON according to a web page, and they all need to be sued although they had not been served because of Rule 28. Judge Annalisa Garza does the old, oh yes, Rule 28 routine, as if no one else knew about Rule 28 or constitutional law, except that she had a room full of lawyers that weren't in her pocket, so they didn't let her shenanigans slide. Instead, they appealed it and got things straightened out because she was wrong. She made a constitutional mistake. She abused her power a few times, and the higher court said she was wrong and had to straighten her out. Marty walks in with the Jollies, Norman and some other Jolly guy, and they had Annalisa Garza all robed up and feeling like she was law incarnate, wielding her gavel of justice. They got $2 million from the case, but I have yet to actually see the case to calculate if it was $2 million before or after the 40% that the Jolly firm builds off of the settlement, and then turns around and gives local counsel, like Marty, They're cut. I saw an ad in the Monitor that was advertising Rio CISD looking for a construction company to finish the job. I need to take a closer look at these cases, but for now it suffices to see the contrast of these two judges. Annalisa Garza was Gocha Ramirez's partner. Think about that. Imagine the kind of justice you'd get with Annalisa Garza as judge and Gocha as DA. People would have to appeal a case just to get justice. In other words, you'd have to take your case out of Starr County just to get a fair trial. Unless you are a criminal, then the evidence would never make it to the courtroom in the first place. But they need the money to run the campaigns, and if they can't take it from the schools, they will try and take it from the crime victims' grants so they can pull on the strings of the lower-ranking henchmen, the yes men, so they can start professing their undying loyalty. For example, in 2016, to Omar. Here's Joel Hinojosa showing his support for Omar. Oh, but now Joel and Ross love Gocha. Joel really loves Gocha. In 2014, he loved Eloy Vera. In 2018, he loved Letty. According to Rio Politics, Joel saved us from flooding and rising taxes, garbage, and water. Letty loves Annalisa Garza. And here's a little bit more love for Anna from Letty. And here's Daria Milton telling me a thing or two about taking an oath to do no harm to the kids. Did the oath say anything about using money for the kids for campaigns? Check your voter fraud committing friends before you preach to me about codes of conduct. $600,000 for something the county is already doing? Give me a break. On behalf of the children with your kind of protection, who needs thieves taking all of our resources? So yeah, the moral of this story is put your money where your mouth is. Quit stealing from kids. Quit saying you're going to prosecute someone if you win, when if you wanted to try, you could do it now. If you're going to stand next to a drainage pipe and claim you rescued the city or county from drainage, at least pick a larger drainage pipe. And if the only way you can win an election is by using taxpayer dollars to pay for voter fraud, you have no business being a public servant, much less thinking of yourselves as better public servants.